Hello, my loves. This is Heidi Hancock with your soul message for November 2020. Holy cow, it's a lot. I'm just going to preface by saying this is probably going to end up being too long for IGTV. So just know that if you're seeing a snippet of this there, you can always watch the full video on YouTube. So yeah, there's so much. This weekend I was working on the blog that goes with this. If you don't know that there is one, it lives on my website, doublemagenta.com. Double like single, double, triple, magenta like the color, it means 88. And it's there under soul messages. So I wrote the blog this weekend and it felt like giving birth. And that is the energy here. It's like the teeming of energy, the birth that is also death, and the teeming of both kind of can feel like anxiety, but also excitement. And it's like, I keep wanting to say that word teeming. It's teeming with opportunity. There's just a lot crystalline coming up. So this month this message in particular is converging so many different energies. We have Halloween, we have a full moon, we have the beginning of the month, the beginning of the week, the US election tomorrow. So much energy converging over and overlapping. So this November soul message will be also the weekly message because it's happening on the same day. It's Monday here, so we'll just do that all together. So I'm calling this one Shore Your Boundaries. And the reason is because the image that I was first shown when I asked about November was we've been working with this container energy a lot. But this time it is without the lid. We're looking at only the base, the bottom of the container. And the new thing that we are starting to create is taking form and it's starting to crystallize. So it's like this new base of the container is starting to crystallize, where we are getting really clear about our boundaries and getting very clear about what we want in our container and what we do not want in our container. So part of that, it's almost like I'm seeing the container come up just, part way, so we can see over the top of it and we can see this container forming, but we can be really clear about like, okay, this is in here, no, that's got to go out, so there's a lot of sorting and organizing energy coming up with that. And it feels like it's happening organically, like you're not going to have to look for what stays and what goes. And in the blog I mentioned, I really recommend, as much as you can, trying to focus on the good that you want to keep in the container and less on what's in the container that you don't want anymore, just so you can keep it positive and focused, because that negative energy, people, experiences, all of that, like that have been, how do I want to say this, benefiting off of the way that we used to behave, ways that our boundaries were not as clear, ways that we weren't even clear about who we were and what we want to be and where we're going, benefited from us behaving differently. And so they really want to pull us back into the old way of doing things. So if you can focus more on what you're creating, what's in the center of your container, the beauty that is starting to show up, I think it's going to behoove you, over the next month and really to the end of the year to be doing that. So another piece that I've been talking about is that we were diving into the underworld, into the bottom of this container and finding these gems, and we're starting to clean those off. And so there's this bittersweet, I talked about this last week, I believe, there's this bittersweet energy that's coming up, and it's beautiful, but it's also painful. It's like this morning I could even feel there's like a heartbreak on the back of my heart. And it's, something I deal with and work with in individual sessions a lot. We hold kind of pain on the back of our heart. It's like something that we don't want to look at or something that we don't want other people to see. And so we're starting to, all these kind of boulders at the bottom of our container that we thought were bad, that we thought were things we needed to cover up and not let anyone see. we've been spending time with those now and starting to see that they're actually beautiful crystals. They're actually beautiful gifts that we have to give to the world. And what we have to do, and what we have been doing, is spending time with those beautiful gifts long enough to clean and polish and notice them and give them reverence and honor. So just be aware of that tender-heartedness and give yourself some space around it. This week, this month, just allow yourself to be with that tenderness, because, when we sit with our feelings, we get so much information out of them. They're there for a reason. They're trying to unlock something in us. They want us to see something. And it's really, big trigger territory right now. This is another thing that comes up in individual sessions a lot, is this piece around wounded younger parts of ourselves that show up, and they get triggered and they want to show us information, and we have to be with them long enough to not shame them, to learn who they are, what do they have to give, and what do they have to offer. And more often than not, when they're seen, they start to soften and calm down, because they get panicky because they're afraid they're going to get missed, or they're afraid that they're in control of something that they feel completely incapable of taking care of. And oftentimes they shouldn't be in charge of it because they're younger, and they need to know that there's an older, wiser self here now that can help and take care of some of that. So the other thing that has been showing up really big in individual sessions last week was Kālī is here, the Hindu goddess. She is coming in hot. And she does so because she is the one that can absolutely cut through the bullshit, cut through any kind of haziness, fogginess. She gets right to the point of what's going on. I wrote about her more in the blog, and there's some links and stuff so that you can read up on her. But one of the quotes from the article that I reference is, "The boundless and existential freedom to be." This is what her job is to help us find that boundless and existential freedom to be. And her responsibility is to make sure that everything dies so that it can be reborn, so that new energy can be reborn. So even when you think of a baby being born, the woman who is birthing the child was at once either, not a mother at all, or a mother of less children than she will become. The child is unborn, is hidden, is, growing and building, but not yet its own separate entity out into the world. So even in birth, there is this process of death of what was before. So all of that is really here, and and really deep wounding that's being uncovered for clearing. It's like, Kālī's here to just excise the wound and let the pus drain out of it, as disgusting and gross as that feels. But that pus is like old wounding for us. I posted a collage last Friday, I think it was. Maybe I finished it on Saturday, and yeah, I think I did. But anyway, oh my gosh. I mean, I was like literally wailing on the ground, face first. It was so painful, the stuff that was coming up with the card pull that I did, and the card itself was, the word that ended up coming was process. And I'm like, oh, if that doesn't speak to everything that we're in right now, it's like we're processing all the junk, but we're also being with the process of becoming ourselves and letting go of the old thing, I mean, the election could not be better timed. So speaking of tomorrow, November 3rd, Mercury goes direct. So that's the planet of communication, travel, technology, like all of that stuff. So fingers crossed that everything goes well there. And then there's an integration phase that happens for about 2-ish weeks after. So we'll see how that goes in line with the election. And then Mars goes direct. So that's been retrograde since the beginning of September, retrograde shadow in August. And that's going to go direct on the 13th, middle of the week. So 13, first of all, is the number of the feminine. I believe it might be even Friday, which is ruled by Venus, which is why the whole Friday the 13th has been shamed and, vilified and whatever, because it's the day of the woman. But Mars retrograde has been holding us back in terms of forward movement. Mars is the planet of action and forward movement, so we've had this held back. And I heard an astrologer talk about this as if Mars is going reverse so that it's allowing the feminine to come forward. And I just think that's so interesting. So I myself, like, there's this teeming energy that's coming up that's like, hey, you only have a couple more weeks to dive into the cave and dive into the hibernation energy and be with that so that you can discover what's down there that wants to be created and rebuilt. And I am feeling that myself. I said to myself at the beginning of September, okay, I'm going to really dive in. I'm going to do a lot of excavation work. I've done some in my home, but I really wanted to do it for my business because I feel this sense of these new offerings wanting to come forward. And yet there's this weird energy too of being able to see things, but it's not really quite time yet. And there's a whole integration phase through the end of the year for that, and even into the beginning of January. So really look at this month, and I'm probably going to talk about it next month too, but the rest of this year is like dive in, figure out what wants to be created, what needs to be let go of, perfect time to clean the house, all of that, because we're doing that internal cleaning ourselves. So 2 more things, and then I have some suggestions. Like I said, this was going to be a long one. So when we are reassessing who we are and where we're going, we're cleaning those jewels, we're discovering that some of the things that we thought we should be ashamed of, that we thought were bad, are actually our greatest gifts. So in the cycle of that, we have to come back to caring for ourselves differently than we did before. It's almost like we have to be, like an internal guard for ourselves to kind of protect ourselves and take care of. So what that brings up for me is this way in which we all have to redefine this idea of selfishness, because we have been given this definition that you need to really give all of yourself first, especially women as mothers. It's like you're supposed to attend to everyone else first and not yourself. And it's because we've been given this definition of selfishness that it's like it's worked for other people, going back to that same energy I talked about at the beginning, where, you're letting go of your boundaries for the comfort of other people, or, you don't want to make waves, so you tell people what they want to hear. And now we're changing all of that energy, because once you come back and you start seeing these things in yourself that were beautiful, now you want to claim those and you want to give those to the world, which is exactly what we need. We need everyone in their power, in their gifts, giving them to the world so that we can redefine the way things, go forward. But when we have been rejecting those in ourselves, it causes this whole about face. We have to come back and start making ourselves the center of our container. We have to make that more important than what's going on in the outside. And in walks selfishness. It's like this sense of, oh, well, you should shame yourself for taking care of yourself first. And, you really should take care of so-and-so first. And it's like, enough of that bullshit. So we really have to reclaim what the definition of selfishness is. And I talk about this more in the blog, but focus on, being centered within yourself instead of using that word selfish. Like, try to redefine it for yourself. It's like, no, I'm being anchored within the center of myself. And that's exactly where I need to be, because truly it's only when your container is overflowing that you have any left over to give to someone else in the first place, right? So we have to readjust the way that we look at that. And then another piece of energy that's been coming in hot this last week is mirroring. Oftentimes when I do independent sessions, there will be homework after, and several people this last week got this homework. And so you can do it with someone else, but I really suggest right now, because we're redefining our sense of self, doing it with yourself. So sitting in front of the mirror and eye gazing with yourself, looking in your own eyes in the mirror, put some music on that you like, and do it for at least 4 songs. You will be completely blown away by the faces, the shapes, the way your face morphs into different beings. It's really incredible, and it's a way to deeply begin to know yourself on a completely different cellular level. But so in that mirroring, there's some energy that's coming up around that. A lot of the work that we're doing, the process, is on our own. It's independent. It has to be, because we have to claim and see ourselves differently. However, there is also this energy of collaboration coming in, because we can heal that sense of not being seen and not being honored and not being validated when we get validated and seen by someone else. So this energy of collaboration, wanting to mirror and see each other. But I would suggest making that list very short, like either one person or two people that you want to actively do that mirroring with. And you can do the eye gazing with another person. Same way, looking in each other's eyes for 4 minutes with, music helps because you get kind of out of your head, but it also helps to time it. So that's a suggestion. Another suggestion for this month is meditating on circles. And the reason is because it's going to give you, like on a cellular level, that sense of inputting right as I say that, I see the cards, which I'll pull in a second. It gives you that sense of container, reminding yourselves to contain your energy. A baby cannot be born outside of the womb. A new creation cannot be born outside of the womb, and it cannot be born also before it's ready. So you want to really use the rest of the year here to capitalize on that hibernation energy. So meditating on circles, just look around. I mean, I'm just in my room, it's sitting here, I can see like at least 10 circles. So just notice where they are and that they're trying to get with your subconscious. The other piece is creating a routine specifically around self-care, but building that into your day and saying, yes, I'm going to go. If you haven't created some kind of meditation temple in your house where you can do this self-practice, I highly recommend that. But making that a priority. And then the last piece is water. The healing element of water is wanting to show up. I think it came up in every single session that I had last week. Even if I was just in the mountains near Tahoe and I recorded for 30 minutes sitting by a stream because it was so beautiful, I wanted to be able to take it with me. And I'm like, oh, now I know why. Just listening to the sound of water, being in the bath, going near a stream, a river, a lake, the ocean, whatever it is, just watching it, and notice all the different forms that water can come in, the crashing wave, the still glassiness on, the top of a lake, the trickling of the stream, and just being with that, allowing it to, just imagine energetically allowing it to wash over you. So typically when I do a soul message, I pull a card ahead of time, but because we're also kind of doing the week here, I decided I'm going to wait and do it here on camera. So let's see what we have for the month. So we're pulling this for November. What have you got? You have got to be kidding me. Absolute. You can't make this shit up, folks. We have the same card as last month, the Destroyer. It's still here, okay? It's Kālī. It is like, look at this. So we've got the circle card. We've got the circle container. Who's at the center of it? It's you. Your eyes, the eye gazing of the owl. We've got circles on either side. This is the building of the container. When I do healing work, I create a container every single time before I do any individual healing work. In fact, I even did it before this message today because it felt important to do that. This is that same image that I keep seeing, a circle with a dot in the center. We are being called to remember our sovereignty, and it lives in the center of our own energy field, in the center of our circle. It doesn't live out here, okay? This is like people trying to draw you away from your center. It's just a whole lot of old patriarchal bullshit that we're walking away from right now. We have to remember who we are, and we have to remember to honor that. Okay, I'm going to read it again here, folks. The Destroyer, the savage, the unexpected, the rejected. Okay, those are the parts of our disowned selves, the gems at the bottom of the container. So what that tells me is that we still have more cleansing to do. We still have to go through the basement of our home. We have to go through the basement of our soul and clean off what needs to stay and what needs to be placed in reference upon a beautiful shelf and honored, and what needs to go to Goodwill. Okay? The destroyer, the final of the three archetypes in the trio of existence, has necessary yet painful work to do in the world. That is that process that I'm talking about. Culturally, we have an aversion to endings, right? We don't want to do it. So we just want to hang on to what's already there. And we hang on to permanence as a signifier of success. Like I could say that about my own business. Well, everything that I've already created is good enough and I like it. So I don't want to allow what I've already created to die in order for something else to birth. But then I just stay where I am, instead of moving forward. And speaking of, another energy that I keep feeling is it feels like it's to do with this Mars retrograde, but it's like there's a lot of information coming through, but it's just not time yet. Like I can see a lot of places where I'm going this next year, and it's a little overwhelming because you're like, oh my God, can I really handle expanding that much? But yes, you can, and that's the process that we're moving through. Yet the destroyer pulls the rug out from underneath relationships, jobs, homes, and all forms of security. It is the part of us that wants things to end, right? Like in order to heal, clean, clear a relationship, you have to acknowledge what's actually there. You have to look at what's there, especially the uncomfortable stuff, and say, wow, I've been letting go of my boundaries. Wow, I haven't been speaking up. Wow, I've been doing the thing that kept me safe instead of the thing that was right. Its painful orientation is to uncover our true purpose. So what I just said. The destroyer does not let us linger long in comforts, as it knows not much happens in that realm. With its piercing eyes, it seeks out stagnancy from a distance, and the rest becomes history. Like this is the energy. I feel so called to be pushing and expanding, new things. And then there's this anxiety of like, am I ready to do that? Is it time? Clearly this card is saying yes. In the old myths, this is the moment when heads begin to roll. The ground opens up and castles crumble. Hold on for the ride. The destroyer has arrived. And I love that we got the castle card last week. It's like, the castle is almost like that crystalline container that we're making, and it's only part way built. So we have to like get really right with ourselves. We have to, it makes me want to say we have to get right with Jesus, but you know what I mean. We have to be in right relationship with the earth. We have to be in right relationship with ourselves in order to do that. And it's like the container is only built so far. It's only crystallized so much, and we want to be really strategic about what we build going forward. When light, swift and precise blows that redirect our life. When dark, self-destruction, negativity, unwillingness to rebuild. And I would say even unwillingness to let it fall apart in order to rebuild. Consider Picasso's statement, every act of creation is first of all an act of destruction, which is what I just said. You have to let it fall apart. In old tales, the destroyer sometimes appears as a black dog. Other times it takes the form of gods and goddesses such as Shiva, Kālī, and Apophis. You can't make this shit up. I mean, that's what I was saying. Kālī is right here. So check out the blog. There's some links in there. You can read up more about Kālī. When I do the soul message, I always send out the newsletter first. I update it I load it onto my website first, and send out the newsletter. So if you want to do that, you can sign up for that at my website, again, doublemagenta.com. Wishing you well. This is no small task. We will know tomorrow in the US at least what direction hopefully we'll know by tomorrow what direction we are going. And I will say this again, and I do not mean to make light of it. It does not mean that who gets elected our next president is not important. But what I will say is the energy that I feel is that Mother Earth is working overtime. The wisdom is coming up from the earth. The truth is being made known every day, all day long. It's coming up. It's right in our face. The genie is out of the bottle. It is not going back in. And so I feel this sense of, regardless of what happens, I feel a sense of safety, because the wisdom's coming out. So it's almost like that's extra. That's kind of like outside of the container, outside of the periphery, if that makes any sense. So it feels like we're going to be okay. And whatever happens, all of us are here to work together and to collaborate and to rebuild a better world going forward. So blessings this month. I'm sorry it was a long message, but holy cow, there's so much to grab here. Be well, take care of yourselves, take your time, do your solitary, do your collaboration, do your mirroring, get in touch with the water. It's all here supporting you. And more than anything, you just have to know that, Mother Earth is here. She's helping support us. And, the bustling of life is always going on, regardless of whether we're paying attention or not. Okay. Blessings. Namaste.